What's your name?
Hello.
I'll broaden Alok's question. Alok is asking, what does one have to do to be a good engineer? I'll broaden it to mean, what does one have to do to be a good anything? And at its broadest, the question means, what does it mean to have a good life? He has used the word practical. He is wondering whether one has to be practical or theoretical. He seems inclined towards being practical. Let's try to understand this. Practical is related to practice. To practice something is to do it. To practice is to do. Right? Now, doing can happen out of two sources, two reasons. The first is the force of habit, the force of conditioning from where an action happens. Right? The second is the force of intelligence. The force of intelligence. When you understand something, then it becomes very, very simple to do it. Understanding and doing become parallel, concurrent, instantaneous. There remains no gap between understanding and doing. Now, most of what we do throughout the day comes from the first kind of doing, which is doing out of dead condition, doing out of the sheer force of habit, doing but not understanding, doing but not understanding at all. So a lot of action seems to be happening on the surface, but there is no understanding. Just like this fan that you have here. You push the button and this fan will start rotating. The blades will appear to move. And it will be very efficient. It will be working at a particular RPM, doing exactly what it has been designed to do, and everything will appear very orderly from the outside. But this fan, does it understand at all what it is doing? Does it understand Faraday's law? Does it understand the electromagnetic motor that is sitting at its heart? It is just doing, right? It is just doing without understanding. And when you are doing without understanding, surely you are a slave. This slave has a master. The one who designed it, the one who switches it on and off. To do without understanding is to be a slave. To do without understanding is to be a slave. Look at the way we exist from morning till evening. There is so much of doing there, so much of action happening. But is that action happening out of our understanding? Do we really understand what is going on with us every moment? Just as this fan does not understand what is going on in its head, do we understand what is going on in our head? If not, then what is the difference between us and this fan? This fan has its button, we too have our buttons. We too have our buttons, and they are very predictable. We know how you would react if something is said to you. Please go back to the entire thing. The question was about practicality. How does one live life? What is meant by practicality? When you say practicality, I said practice means doing. And doing can come from two sources. One, doing without understanding, like this fan. Second, a doing that is born out of understanding. You understand something, and from that understanding, action happens. There is a deep, intelligent understanding which immediately translates into action. This really is what practicality is all about. Practicality does not mean a certain cunningness. Practicality is not conditioning or the force of habit. Practicality does not mean that I am doing things the way I have been conditioned to do, taught to do. Practicality does not mean that somebody else has told me that this is practical and hence you must do it. Practicality means I understand, and from that understanding my action results. I am not a fan, not a machine, not a slave. I am getting it. How can you be practical when you do not understand anything? But then the world is full of people who say, we are very practical. But what does that being practical mean? It means that their mind is full of notions about being practical. That there are manipulations, that there is certain cunningness about them, and that is what they call as being practical. They are abusing the word practical. They are abusing the word practical. To be practical does not mean being chalu, being deceptive, being shrewd. To be practical means being in deep touch with life. To be practical means having the eye that can look at the mind and understand it. That is what being practical is. Practical is not the opposite of theoretical. No. Practical means I am alive. To be alive means to understand. This eating, walking, talking, this is not being alive. These are real actions. When these actions do not come out of an intelligence, then these are dead actions. Even this fan moves. What is the difference between you moving and this fan moving? If you are also being dictated by somebody else to move, just as your sir said, that you had to be pushed to move. Right? Even this fan has to be pushed to move. There is somebody else who pushes it to move. No, that is not being practical. To be pushed to move. No, that is not being practical. Do you understand what is being practical now? Yes? Being practical means practical implies practice, practice is action, and action must be born out of intelligence. That is what it means to be practical. Be it life or be it engineering. When you understand, then something happens from there. That's how discoveries are made. That's how new things come in life. Are you getting it? Yes?